Matt Riddle is a man who has been everywhere, from the UFC to indie wrestling to the WWE, but despite being through it all, it could be argued that Matt Riddle hasn't changed. And that could be argued as the reason why he faced such a dramatic downfall in his WWE career. That and other reasons we're going to talk about in today's video, so subscribe to the channel right now if you haven't already, and let's talk about Matt Riddle. As I stated in the start of this video, before even entering the world of wrestling, Matt Riddle was an MMA fighter who had multiple fights in the UFC and a fairly successful run in the UFC. Well, sort of, let me explain. He first appeared on The Ultimate Fighter in 2008, which, to explain to a fan in wrestling terms, is essentially the UFC version of Tough Enough. He went 1-1 on The Ultimate Fighter and was given a UFC contract despite not winning the series, and he would then fight 12 times in the UFC up until 2013 with a fight record of 9-3. But not really. His record is actually 7-3, due to 2 of those fights being changed to no contest after he tested positive for marijuana in post-fight drug tests for both of those fights, with the second positive test in February 2013 leading to his release from his UFC contract. He would have one more MMA fight for Titan Fighting Championships, winning that fight and ending his MMA career at 8 wins and 3 losses. And 8 months after his last fight, it was reported that Matt Riddle was training to be a professional wrestler, and he would make his debut in February 2015 for the Monster Factory. That same year, he also won the Monster Factory World title, as well as signing for Evolve and participating in a WWE tryout. The next year in 2016, he entered Pro Wrestling Guerrillas Battle of Los Angeles tournament, but was eliminated in the first round. Matt Riddle would spend years as one of the top indie wrestling names and would wrestle for promotions all around the world until finally in July of 2018 it was reported that Matt Riddle had signed with the WWE, and sure enough, he would appear in the crowd at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn in August 2018. And Matt Riddle would enjoy a solid run in NXT. He would be a main event to upper mid-card guy and would be a part of big matches like in War Games and being on Team NXT at Survivor Series 2019. But Matt Riddle never had won a singles title in NXT. In fact, his NXT run is probably most known for his tag team run with Pete Dunne, where they were known as the Broserweights. The Broserweights entered and won the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic in 2020, which earned them a shot for the NXT tag titles, which they won at NXT TakeOver Portland 2020 in February. However, shortly after winning the titles, COVID would strike and Pete Dunne would not be able to travel to NXT. Matt Riddle would defend the titles alongside Timothy Thatcher as the substitute partner, but they would lose the titles on the May 13th, 2020 NXT to Imperium when Timothy Thatcher walked out on Matt Riddle. This would result in a fight pit match 2 weeks later, which Thatcher won and was Riddle's last NXT match, as he was called up to the main roster to the SmackDown brand in the summer of 2020. He quickly got into a feud with AJ Styles for the IC title, but would fail to beat him and then would feud with Baron Corbin. And the summer of 2020 would also see Matt Riddle embroiled in controversy outside of the ring, as accusations were made against Matt Riddle during the Speaking Out movement. A woman accused Riddle of choking her out and forcing oral sex on her, which Riddle would immediately deny in a video on social media, and also posted a statement from his attorney to social media to accompany it. He had stated that he had an affair with the woman, but everything was consensual, and Riddle would also file a restraining order against her alleging stalking and harassment, but he withdrew the restraining order just months later. The accuser would file a lawsuit in October 2020 against Riddle, the WWE, and Evolve president Gabe Sapolsky. WWE and Gabe were both dismissed as defendants in March 2021, and then the entire suit was dropped altogether in July, and everyone sort of just forgot about it all. Matt Riddle would continue to wrestle actively in the WWE whilst all this was going on, and despite the controversy, was finding more success in the company. He was drafted to Raw in October of 2020, and his ring name was renamed to simply just Riddle, and months later he would win the US title at the 2021 Elimination Chamber, his first singles title win, which would end up being a short-lived title reign, and he would drop the title to Sheamus at WrestleMania. and shortly after losing the title, Riddle would begin a storyline with Randy Orton, with Riddle wanting to team with Orton, but Randy not being interested. However, after beating Orton in a match, he would agree, and RK Bro were formed. At SummerSlam that year, RK Bro would win the Raw Tag Team titles from AJ Styles and Omos, and begin actively defending and appearing with the titles on TV. RK Bro were a big hit in the company, and would hold the titles for 142 days before losing them to the Alpha Academy in January, but they would win the titles back in March. They would defend them at WrestleMania that year, and then would enter into a feud with the Bloodline, more specifically the Usos, and they were looking to unify the tag titles. This unification match would sure enough happen on the May 20th, 2022 edition of SmackDown, with the Usos coming out on top and ending Matt Riddle and Randy Orton's reign at 74 days this time. Randy Orton would be sidelined with a long-term injury not too long after, and Matt Riddle would be left to his own devices once again and would have to compete as a single star once again. Riddle would continue his feud with the Bloodline and even get a world title shot against Roman, which he of course lost. Riddle would then feud with Rollins during the summer, losing to him at Clash at the Castle but beating him inside the Fight Pit at Extreme Rules, and on the December 13th, 2022 episode of Raw, Matt Riddle was written off TV after he was attacked by Solo Sikoa, and the reason for him being written off TV was because it was reported that Matt Riddle had been suspended for 60 days due to taking drugs. And a 60-day suspension means this is a second offense, which suggests somewhere along the line Riddle was suspended and it wasn't publicly announced. Along with this, Riddle would be sent to rehab, and he would post to Twitter in light of the news stating, "I've been working a lot on myself lately and have been saying no and setting boundaries for the first time ever, and certain people aren't happy about it, but I couldn't be healthier or happier. Thank you for all the support." And he would also update fans with photos whilst he was away. He would return in April of 2023 and resume his feud with the Bloodline, as himself, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens would face the Bloodline minus Roman at Backlash in a losing effort. Riddle would also start to feud with his ex-NXT rival Gunther for his IC title, but would be beat at Money in the Bank in a surprisingly short match. And following this, Matt Riddle would really start treading water in the company, and his appearances were becoming more sporadic and he was appearing on TV less, and eventually on September 22nd, he announced he was no longer with the company and had been let go. And this was probably due to controversy Riddle had found himself in not too long before this. On the 11th of September 2022, in a quickly deleted Instagram post, Riddle claimed he was sexually assaulted by TSA at JFK Airport in New York, sparking an investigation. However, 2 weeks later and a week after Matt Riddle's WWE departure, a video obtained by TMZ showed Matt Riddle at JFK Airport with TSA and disproved the claims, as well as showing Matt Riddle making a loud scene with a drink in hand. Since leaving the WWE, Matt Riddle has expressed interest in an MMA return and influencer boxing, and has also been booked for various indie shows, so it seems he is continuing his wrestling career, at least for now. Matt Riddle's early downfall will mean he will always remain a big what-if question in regards to his career and how far he could have gone had his demons not got in the way.